Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. A CBC forum last night on the extortion crisis in Surrey heard from some frustrated and fearful residents. We'll hear some of the voices who spoke at last night's forum. Plus, BC will now limit when employers can ask for sick notes. Doctors have long complained that having to write sick notes clogs up the healthcare system, but some businesses have some concerns. We'll hear more, and we're asking you what has been your experience with obtaining a sick note. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. First, the number of extortion cases in Surrey and other Fraser Valley communities has been growing, with more than 100 cases altogether this year. More recently, a shooting on November 8th was confirmed by police as linked to extortion. Last night, CBC News held a special town hall broadcast with police, politicians, academics, and community members discussing what more can be done to tackle the extortion crisis. The crowd in attendance was passionate. Residents expressed concerns about the complex nature of these extortion threats, said to have links to the Indian government. Here's what some of them had to say.
My street has been shot up 3 times, 126A. 3 times our street has been shot up. What does the cops do? Come, they park their car in front, leave it there for a couple of weeks, and they're gone. My kids are scared, my family's scared, the whole neighborhood's scared. I'm just asking elected officials and even the police officers, what are we waiting for?
For a lot of us in the community is we do not know who to turn to on the extortion shooting issue.
How many more lives, incidents or victims are needed before it's considered as a Canada's problem?
Of course, we are late. Now extortion has turned into domestic terrorism. Why not to declare it national emergency? What is stopping it?
The first shooting that happened was exactly 2 years ago in November of 2023 when the first business in Pyle Business Centre was shot at. And from then to now, it's been 2 years, and everybody does not know what's happening in the background, the progress that's happening in the background. But I must say that, the news that we had a few days ago of some of those criminals being deported, and a lot, 78 of them that are in the line, is very reassuring. But I think there is, I must admit, a lot of frustration around, we live in Canada, we don't live in an underdeveloped country where there is, no rule of law. And we have abundance of resources as well, and how is it that it is taking us so long to see results? So I think the more results that are visible, the more decisions taken, and, if that's what's seen, that is going to be reassuring, because we all want to see, what is a deterrent that can give everybody some comfort.
Some of the voices from last night's CBC News town hall. It was held in Surrey regarding the extortion crisis. You can watch that town hall right now on CBC British Columbia's YouTube page. That's CBC BC's YouTube page. It's now 12:09. You're with BC Today. Thanks for being with us. Well, this week, BC placed new limits on when employers can ask for sick notes. The new rules apply to people covered by the Employment Standards Act, and they say that for an employee's first 2 health-related absences of the year, employers can't ask for a sick note if you're away for 5 days or fewer. So the first 2 times you call in sick in a year, you can only be asked for a sick note if you exceed 5 days. Now, for years, doctors have complained that having to provide sick notes was unnecessary, caused too much paperwork, and took up medical appointments. Dr. Jennifer Lush is vice president of the BC College of Family Physicians and a family doctor in Victoria. She spoke with Gloria Makarenko on the early edition.
Family doctors have been saying for years that sick notes are a medically unnecessary administrative burden, and it's really great to have the government work with physicians on eliminating this medically unnecessary piece of paperwork from everybody's lives.
What can you tell us about what the situation was like before the new limits?
Well, before, people would have a commonly occurring viral illness that we know will improve in 5 to 7 days with simple supportive care. They typically don't need the intervention of a doctor. And so people would be coming to offices simply to get this sick note so they could go back to work. or take advantage of their benefits. And what happened was that they were spreading communicable disease in our offices. Plus, they were taking up a visit that could have gone to somebody that had true medical need and really did need to see a doctor for care. So this is an all-around great step, both for physicians' administrative burden as well as for employees.
That's Dr. Jennifer Lush, Vice President of the BC College of Family Physicians. In a minute, we'll hear the perspective of employers, but we want to hear from you as well. What has been your own experience in obtaining a sick note? And if you are a business owner, are you concerned by this change? You can call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone or dial us up at 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can also leave a comment on our TikTok Live. We have an email right now from Elizabeth, who writes, I fully support this initiative. Why on earth would you send someone to clog up a system that is already overwhelmed? To satisfy what exactly? A doctor will provide a note for an employee who is not feeling well and should be at home in bed. The challenge almost always is that the manager of the employee is frustrated with the absence and is transferring that frustration onto the employee, the doctor, and other patients who have legitimate reasons to see the doctor. If there is an issue with absenteeism, then that is a conversation that needs to be addressed. A doctor's note does not fix any problems that may exist or what may be a broader issue. Elizabeth, thank you. bctoday@cbc.ca is our email address. Joining me now for this conversation is Ryan Mitton, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses Director of Legislative Affairs. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having CFIB on the show.
Well, what's your reaction to these new rules?
Well, this had the potential to be a good move, if not for the fact that the government has decided to download the cost of this sick note system onto small businesses. We are already in the middle of a trade war. We're in the middle of a high tax environment. And the government now has 5 paid sick days, which every single small business has to account for upfront when they hire a new employee. So to see the loss of sick notes will be a frustration for many employers who tell us that they have to deal with employees who are calling out sick either on a Monday or a Friday, and they suspect that it may not be legitimate. So they're losing a key check and balance to this paid sick day, and we need other tools in the system to address that.
And what is the increased cost as a result of not being able to ask for sick notes?
Well, we estimate that a small business with 5 employees would pay about $5,000 extra for these 5 paid sick days. So while we are happy to see some limitations on the consecutive amount of absences an employee can make, that was something that we did request, we are still not seeing the checks and balances and tools for employers to make sure that every paid sick day is legitimate.
What kinds of checks and balances would you like to see in place of this or in lieu of it?
Well, some of the ideas that we have proposed to government include things like employee attestations. If you have to discipline an employee who takes a wrong sick day, something that isn't actually truly for time to get better, because let's face it, nobody wants employees coming into the office sick or into their restaurant sick. That is not an ideal outcome.
Sure.
But we do need to make sure that everyone's playing fair and upholding the system. So an attestation could be something as simple as an employee signing a form that says, I truly am sick, I am taking this day off, and I am entitled to it. If that comes out that it's actually they went to take a holiday or went skiing, then an employer could rightfully play by the rules and say, hey, this was not actually the case, and then go through their disciplinary procedures. Without those kind of tools, employers will be hard pressed to make sure that everyone's playing fair in the system. And that's what we want at the end of the day.
Is there any knowledge at all as to how often that actually happens, people abusing the system?
I've heard a significant amount of complaints from CFIB members and small businesses who say that they are seeing some people who are not using the system fairly. In fact, while over 2/3 of small businesses say they don't actually request sick notes as a matter of every time, they also still are frustrated to be losing that key check and balance. I was recently out in Victoria speaking to small businesses, and I heard from one small business owner who has a lot of seasonal student-aged employees, and they find that as people begin to go back to school at the end of their 2 weeks notice as they're leaving to depart, suddenly they are taking an entire week of paid sick days. And it's suspicious to say the least. Now, without a key check and balance, like a sick note to say, hey, are you doing this legitimately? Employers are simply paying out of pocket. And that disadvantages other employees who are playing by the rules. In a time of rising unemployment where we see additional costs for businesses, we want to make sure that we're not layering on these costs and making it easier to grow and to hire more people.
Let me just take a call here right now. My guest, Ryan Mitton, who is the Legislative Affairs Director for BC for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. And we're asking you, in light of these new rules that actually say that employers can't ask for sick notes if you are away sick or absent sick for 5 days or fewer. And that's up to 2 absences. That's your first 2 absences for the year. It's a little bit complicated, so I'm trying to make sure I explain it correctly. And so no sick note required if you fall within 5 days for those first 2 times you call in sick. Let us know what you think of that change. And if you do have similar concerns to what you've heard from Ryan Mitton, you can call us now, 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733. Or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email again is bctoday@cbc.ca. And James is calling us from Prince George. What do you think of this change, James?
Well, you know, I'll preface this by saying that I've got about 40-ish years of supervising people under my belt. So, you know, hopefully this has a little bit of, you know, wisdom behind it.
You have some experience.
It's absolutely nuts. Yeah. It's absolutely nuts that anyone with any relevant supervisory experience would think that sending somebody to a doctor is going to help resolve an issue. Doctor is going to see a patient. They're going to come in. They're going to tell them what's going on, say, I need a sick note. And they're going to, okay, well, what do you feel like? And they'll write it down. So it's not like the doctor's actually screening out issues for a supervisor. It's a huge sign of a weak supervisor if you need to rely on a crutch like that. That actually doesn't have any teeth at all because the doctor's just going to say what the patient is telling them at the end of the day. So if you've got somebody that you think is gaming your business, you know, you need to rely on the people that are actually supervising these people to understand their condition. You know, some people have legitimate illnesses and they're sick more often than others. But, you know, you really need to narrow in and say, okay, is this an issue with their health or is this actually an issue with the workplace? And that's fully on the business to take care of that. Doctors are not going to do that for you.
What I heard from Ryan is that this was a way of dealing with that issue and you know, sticking with the rules, going through a proper process of requiring proof that someone is sick. What are the alternatives? How would you deal with that then as a supervisor, James, if you felt that there was someone abusing the system?
Yeah, okay. So just let me repeat this. There's no proof to seeing a doctor and getting a note. That doesn't prove anything apart from the fact that somebody told them. If they're going to lie to your supervisor, they're going to lie to the doctor. Okay. So if that happens, what you need to do as a supervisor, and I heard the previous little bit where you get somebody to actually attest. Okay, you're sick, just, you know, write me, you tell me that you were sick, write it down, we'll put it in your file, Bob's your uncle. And if it's chronic, then you start dealing with it. I've had employees that have magically called in sick for a Friday night shift, a lot. And
how did you deal with it?
You're not very good at your job. Well, you have a conversation with the person where you, you know, it's really convenient. I've noticed a pattern. It's really convenient that you're not here every Friday. What's going on? Are you okay? And, you know, your role is to, as a supervisor, is to care for your employees' well-being in the workplace, right? So obviously you've got a problem. They either don't want to be there, they've got something else going on in their life, or they're just blowing it off because they don't think that you're smart enough to catch them skiing every Friday or whatever they're doing if they're going down that route. But, you know, assuming that everybody's dishonest out of the gate is really not a great way to run a railroad, if you'll pardon the pun.
James, thank you very much. 40 years of experience as a supervisor. Thank you very much for the call. Let me go back to Ryan Mitton with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Yes, what do you make of that? And we heard as well from the email earlier, if you have concerns, that's a broader issue that you need to discuss with that employee, and it's not about getting a sick note.
I think one thing that James highlighted so well is that employers do know their employees, especially at the small business level. Right. You know, these are family operations, they live in their communities, and so they do care about the well-being of the people that work for them, and that's so critically important. And that's why when we survey small businesses, we find that 2/3 of employers don't actually require sick notes right out of the gate. They already are using their discretion. The issue now is that with paid sick days and the cost that that imposes, they're losing a key tool to manage their workforce. And that's why we need to see the government come in, with financial options for small businesses, either tax credits or other financial offsets elsewhere, helps small businesses manage the new costs that they're going to have to take on. Secondly, we also want to make sure that we're conferring some kind of employee management options on the small businesses. Like we mentioned, we discussed the idea of attestation. There's always the option of talking it out with your employee. And frankly, in other provinces where we don't have paid sick days, this could be something that we would be cheerleading. But the province has chosen to download the cost of sick days and this healthcare management onto employers. They're not doctors at the end of the day, and they're just doing their best.
When you say new costs, is that essentially presuming that now that people won't need a sick note if you're going to be sick for 5 days, that they will take up those 5 days?
So unlike vacation days, which you accrue as you work at a business over the course of your employment for the year, sick days are immediately vested at small businesses. So once you hit the threshold that you can qualify, you've worked 3 months at a business, you get paid sick days, you're immediately entitled to the full financial benefit there. So small businesses, when they hire someone, they have to budget for that right out of the gate. And it does create a new barrier and a new wrinkle when it comes to hiring more employees. This is perhaps something the government has overlooked. And so if we started to look at sick days on an accrual basis or had other ways to write off the cost of sick days that are actually taken at a business level, then this would actually allow small businesses to better manage employees who are sick. Because at the end of the day, we don't want people coming into the workplace sick, but we also need to make sure we're managing those costs effectively and making sure everyone plays by the rules.
Our numbers again, we'd love to hear from you. What is your experience with obtaining a sick note? What do you think of this change? Limiting the requirement for a sick note to absences for more than 5 days. And that's for your first 2 health-related absences of the year. Doctors have been saying that requiring a sick note is unnecessary, too much paperwork, and also takes away an appointment. But we're hearing now as well that there are concerns coming from small businesses when it comes to these changes and the cost to them. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733. Love to hear from you. Ilyana is our next caller now in Surrey. Hi, Ilyana. What are your thoughts on sick notes?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for hearing me. I'm a family doctor and emergency provider in the Lower Mainland, and I'm fully in support of removing the requirement for sick notes for less than 10 days over the course of the year. It's my experience as a provider that it is a huge it's a very frustrating administrative burden that's already been discussed for sure. But I also believe that ultimately it sounds like this is a distrust between employers and employees, and it's a distrust a burden that should not be placed on a medical system that's already overwhelmed to prove. And so I think that I love the discussion points that the previous caller has raised with perhaps making this more attestation notes. I like the idea of potentially supporting small business with tax credits for short sick days, but ultimately it just needs to be taken off of the burden of the medical community.
Ilyana, great to hear from you. Thank you very much. Let's head to the island now, and Alicia is joining us from Campbell River. Hi, Alicia.
Hello.
Hi, what are your thoughts on obtaining a sick note?
So I'm glad that they're removing the need for sick notes, if that's what I'm understanding from the conversation. I've always thought that it's recently pretty ignorant about the current situation of lack of family doctors being available. Most people I know don't have a family doctor, and we have no walk-in clinics in Campbell River. The only clinic we have now is the urgent care clinic at the hospital, which fills up like the first 5 minutes of the day that they're open. They're already full, so that's could be multiple days before this person would be able to get a sick note potentially. There are phone options now, which is great, virtual options, but people do get sick, and it's pretty hard to get proof for it. Like the other guy was saying, it's up to the person's honesty. And I guess if you don't trust your staff to be honest with you, there's a bigger problem there.
That's a really, really good point, Alicia. I just want to thank you so much. I want to jump in because I just want to put that to Ryan. What do you do if a person can't get to a clinic, a walk-in clinic, and can't get in, or does not have a family doctor?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a conversation we need to be having about how the provincial government has managed our healthcare system. It shouldn't fall on small businesses either to make up for the lack of capacity.
But what do you
when it
do
comes
if you have
to,
if you're requiring a note and there's nobody to give it?
Yeah, when we talk to small businesses about what they do and how they manage their employees, like I mentioned, 2/3 of all small businesses already say they don't require a sick note as a matter of fact. In fact, they know their employees, they work with them, and they try to come to solutions. It's these marginal cases where it's suspicious behavior or repeated absenteeism that employers need tools to manage this, especially when they are bearing the cost of paid sick days. So we obviously hope that it doesn't come to extremes, that employers can work together. But yeah, you absolutely raise a great point. We shouldn't be downloading the costs of policy failures at the provincial level onto small businesses either.
Alicia, thank you very much for your call. A couple of comments here, one on TikTok. Lots of comments on TikTok, actually. Music45 says, someone else said it, take care of your employees and you won't have this problem. Village Bloomer says, your staff are your business. If sick days feel out of balance, it's a workplace culture issue. Dwayne Big Daddy writes on TikTok, your staff are, fix your workplace and your employees will take fewer sick days. And Ellie writes on email, to me, every sick day is legitimate. We shouldn't need a doctor to give us permission or validate our need for rest. From my perspective, even if a coworker is not physically ill, I trust them to take their day off. Mental health days are as important as regular sick days. I'd prefer any coworker take this necessary time away from work if they need it. I don't care about the reason. Ellie, thank you. BC Today at cbc.ca. And Ryan Mitton, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion.
Thanks for having CFIB on the show.
Ryan Mitton is the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses Director of Legislative Affairs for BC. Let's take another call here now. And on the line, we have Evan in Vancouver. Hi, Evan.
Hi there. I guess my comment was really just echoing what Ellie just said on TikTok, and something that I felt was maybe a bit absent from this conversation, or, sort of what is the definition of sick? And, if you're someone who is struggling with, something mentally, with your mental health, and you would really benefit from that day, it's hard if I think you work in a workplace where that's perhaps stigmatized inadvertently by an employer expecting to see physical illness or a note.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for the call, Evan. Very good to hear from you as well in Vancouver. Like to get all of our callers in as well. Mark now is our last one in Vancouver as well. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts on sick notes?
Well, I've been a manager training employees for about 40 years for various corporations. And my view on this also goes back to the responsibility of the employers. Many employers have had difficult times in the last couple of years and have, decided to cut back on the number of employees that they have doing the jobs. And this puts a tremendous strain on the balance of employees that are working, and that strain has put many of them under mental stress. And therefore, it is for them, they're calling in sick, quite often these days because of that situation. So I agree with many of the previous callers that have said that, the situation is the work-life balance.
Okay.
And
Mark
employees have a duty, but so do the owners have a duty and responsibility.
That's Mark in Vancouver calling us about sick notes. Thank you very much, Mark. Lots of emails coming in as well. Michelle writes, my doctor was extremely popular long before COVID and doctor shortages. To get an appointment would take 2 to 3 weeks. My employer required a doctor's sick note for 2 days absent, so 2 to 3 weeks after I was off work sick, and long since recovered, I'd be in the doctor's office describing the symptoms I had experienced weeks earlier. Complete disconnect. Downloading HR management onto sick employees and overworked doctors is ridiculous. Michelle, thank you. Lots and lots of emails coming in. I will get through them as well and put them together for you for Monday on the show. BC Today at cbc.ca is our address. Right now, it is just past 12:31 now. You're with BC Today. And coming up, we'll talk about thrift shopping. That's right. We'll ask you what your experience is with thrift shopping. Things are changing in the thrift store industry. So we'll talk about that coming up after this CBC News Update with Liam Britton.
Good afternoon. BC New Democrats are gathering in Victoria today for the party's convention. Premier David Eby will face an automatic leadership review. At the last convention 2 years ago, Eby had the backing of more than 93% of delegates, but that was before the party's narrow victory in the provincial election last year. A man reported missing in Nanaimo was found dead Wednesday. Nanaimo Mounties say Mahadi Redwan's body was found near the side of Highway 19A between Turner Road and Mostar Road, and his death is considered criminal. Anyone with information is asked to call police. The BC Lions are disappointed not to be playing for the CFL's Silver Chalice, the Grey Cup, this weekend, but there was a silver lining at the CFL Awards last night. Quarterback Nathan Rourke was named the league's most outstanding player and most outstanding Canadian, and Matthew Betts, top defensive player. Saskatchewan and Montreal will contest the 112th Grey Cup game in Winnipeg on Sunday. And now the BC forecast. On the north coast, gusting winds and a chance of rain this afternoon, high of 6. Sunny in the Peace, high of -1. In the central interior, including Prince George, cloudy today with a high of 0. Over in the Kootenays, cloudy with rains likely, highs reaching 8. In Kelowna and the southern interior, cloudy, chance of showers, high of 8. For Greater Victoria, Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley, cloudy with a chance of rain, highs reaching 9. And that's your CBC News Update from Vancouver.
Silver chalice, silver lining. I gave a woot woot when I heard that.
I had to do it to him.
I was waiting with bated breath if there was going to be a Liam Britton pun. Classic.
Hey, it's why they pay me the big bucks. They're not that big.
They're so big. I actually, when I learned you were going to be doing the news, I went back into the archives, Liam, because I thought there's got to be a pun in the news update. And if there isn't, I'm going to have to bring one up for you.
Yeah, just report it to HR, hey, no puns, what the heck?
I'm going to take you back to February when you reported on Nanaimo's Todd Maffin putting out to social media an invitation for Americans to come visit Nanaimo. And Maffin said, well, they may just be coming for the Nanaimo bars. And you said, no one is barred from coming to Nanaimo.
I can't believe you did. Thank you. I don't know who was on the drum roll, but that was, I'm so flattered. I'm glad there's a red background behind me because I think I'm blushing here.
We should have a tracker, really, for Liam Britton puns. You're very good at them.
Thank you.
I have to say.
Oh, shucks.
We'll wait for the next one. When are you back?
For a couple of weeks. The beloved Rob Zimmerman is off to Brazil, but we're here in the real tropical paradise, Vancouver, holding it down in his absence.
Yes, and you are doing a very good job. We will look for a pun a day. Thank you. You better fill that quota.
All right. The challenge is on. Thanks, Michelle.
That's Liam Britton in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Welcome back. It is 12:35 now. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Very nice to have you with us. Well, I, for one, I don't know about you, but I really enjoy thrift shopping, right? There's the thrill of the hunt, discovering something cool and rare, and of course, finding a good bargain. Who doesn't love that? Well, thrifting has become very popular, but it's also undergone some changes. And so arguably, some of those changes are not so good for vintage fans. Well, this week, CBC has been looking into the world of vintage shopping with a series called, speaking of puns, Losing the Thread. We'd like to hear from you now. What's your experience with secondhand shopping? Have you recently gotten into it? And what's been your experience as thrifting becomes more and more popular? Are you noticing some changes? You can give us a call. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone or dial 1-800-825-5950 or 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733. Or email bctoday@cbc.ca. You can also, as many people have done, leave a comment on our TikTok Live. Majenta Braumberger is a Langara journalism student and the winner of this year's Reed Mercer Fellowship. And she's been working on this series. She has rolled up her sleeves to work on it. They just keep coming. Majenta, welcome.
Yeah, we love a good pun, right?
We sure do. I know that you are a fan of thrift shopping yourself. So am I. Everything I'm wearing today is thrifted. Tell me about, your favorite pieces. You have some with you. I gotta say, they look stunning. They're just so colorful.
Yeah, I thought that some of these would, they'd look really, really good on the camera. So, I kind of have a curated selection here. But yeah, it's true. I'm happy to hear everything that you're wearing is thrifted.
Yes.
And I am a big thrift shopper, but that it honestly wasn't always the case. Like, I think, in my early 20s, I kind of shopped new most of the time in the same way that I think a lot of us do. But over the last 5-10 years, I feel like that's really, really changed. And now I try to buy pretty much everything secondhand, except maybe underwear.
Well, all right, thank you for clarifying that, I guess. Well, tell us about this.
This is a great piece. I think it's probably from the 60s. And so it is, I'm pretty sure it's wool. It doesn't have a fabric tag, but it feels really nice. It's all hand embellished. And so it has,
gorgeous.
all of these sequins. And you can see, if you turn it around, that all of it has been sewn on.
Right, you see the quality of the work.
Totally.
Do you remember when you found it?
Yeah, I was actually at Toronto. Has this big biannual convention where all of the vintage sellers come and they bring some of their best stuff. So I didn't find this one just out in the wild. It was kind of a bit more curated, but there was a vintage seller and they had just found it at actually an estate sale. So they had just got it. They were really excited about it, and then they said they had just put it out on their stock, and I scooped it from them. So that was really exciting.
It's a gorgeous cardigan.
Yeah, and it's a great color.
Yeah, and then you have some pants here that are kind of like a tartan pattern.
Yeah, so this is actually a really long skirt.
Oh,
so
okay. It's like a
can't-
long kilt.
Exactly. It's like a long kilt, and it's pretty rare that you can see, you find a kilt this length.
Yeah.
It's also 100% wool.
I was going to say it looks like a fine wool.
Yeah, and there's a made in Scotland tag. It's
Wow.
Yeah, it's Laird Porch of Scotland. I'm not familiar with the brand, but you definitely it's been, I think, harder and harder to find 100% wool, especially if you go thrifting. So this is a pretty special piece.
And you have a jacket there.
Yes, this
Oh,
one
it looks cozy.
I was very, very excited about. So this one I actually found just at Value Village, which is, you can't, some of the things that people get rid of, This one is it's just a beautiful fur jacket, and it has this very cool detailing on the back. There's all of this, it's almost like a
Is it real fur?
plasticky- Yeah, it is real fur.
Wow. And so I guess
Yeah.
when people have concerns about that, I guess you're buying it used, someone else has already.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of feel with fur, it's if it's already in the world and they're not making it new, it feels to me more ethical, because it's if it's only going to go to a landfill if it's not worn, then save it and give it a second life.
So you've been thrift shopping for the past few years now. What's changed, do you think? What have you noticed?
Well, I think there's been a lot of things that have changed, I would say. I've definitely noticed there's two different kind of camps of thrift shop when I think of it. I think of, there's more of your charity shop, or a big chain thrift store. And with those where they don't really have a curated selection, it's just kind of whatever is getting donated. I think what I've really noticed, and I've chatted with people for the series, and a lot of them have found similar things, is that there's a lot more fast fashion on the floor, especially more Shein specifically. You see a lot more Shein pieces, a lot more fast fashion pieces overall. And so I think it's becoming a little bit tougher to find some of what we think of when we think of true vintage. And then I think another thing is prices have risen. But then the other piece I think is really interesting is if you have this more of a curated store, you've really seen the rise of those. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that we're seeing different things at more of like the uncurated, everything on the floor type thrift, you see more like vintage resellers. And I think that's because people are interested in secondhand. They want to shop secondhand, but they don't necessarily want to do like all of that digging themselves.
Right. And so what does that mean for prices that people are seeing then? You said they are actually going up.
I think I've noticed it anecdotally, and I think a lot of people that I spoke with kind of commented on like, yeah, you know, if you go to the thrift, I think just over the past few years, you see like the price of something maybe a couple years ago would have been like $5-10, and now it's looking more like $15-20, and so.
Yeah, and that's too bad if you're actually making that switch for the affordability part of it.
Yeah.
Let's put out the numbers here, asking you what's been your experience with thrift shopping, and let us know if you have noticed some changes as the popularity of vintage shopping has risen over these recent years. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733. Or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email address is bctoday@cbc.ca. And Joan writes, I have gone to thrift shops for decades, but I have quit. The quality is down, prices are up. I have lots of quality clothing. If you wash by hand and leave out the dryer, you save a lot of money. Oh yeah, that's a great point. I do buy underwear and waterproof hiking boots from shops, but even those are lower quality. The last ones I bought were totally wet after 10 minutes in the rain. Quality is down everywhere. I find the best thing to do in Victoria is curbside. You can find total treasures. Oh wow, there you go. Thank you for sharing that. We have lots of emails coming in now on thrifting as well. bctoday@cbc.ca is our email address. And my guest is Majenta Braumberger, who is the Reed Mercer Fellow for CBC right now. She's a Langara journalism student and has produced this series, Losing the Thread, about the changes that the thrift store, I guess as an industry, thrift shops have been facing. So from the perspective of thrift shops, what do they see has changed?
So I spoke to a lot of resellers for the series, and they've noticed that it's become a bit more difficult to find like old pieces. You know, like I spoke to one reseller out of Toronto, and she told me that she used to be able to go and find like 20 band tees, rare band tees, Harley tees, some of these more like traditionally sought after vintage pieces, but that those pieces are becoming harder and harder to find. And I think, that's kind of a few factors. Like one is the supply side, which we got into a little bit, this idea that you're seeing more people, they're buying more clothes than ever, but it's not the same kind of clothes. I think our relationship with clothing has changed quite a bit. Like we're buying more, but we're discarding those things
right,
quite
it just
quickly.
gets faster and faster, that turnover.
Yeah, and I have I thought this was kind of a jaw-dropping stat, is there are about 100 billion with a B, items of clothing that are made every year, and about half of those are being disposed of within a year of being made.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's pretty fast.
Yeah, so we're buying more clothes than ever, but we're also getting rid of it. And I think clothes aren't really being made to last in the way that they used to. So I think there's that piece, but there's also just more demand. So, those two factors, I think resellers are saying that it's making it a bit more challenging to source inventory for them. And so some of them have kind of pivoted, and I think a lot of resellers are selling more of early 2000s pieces, which, believe it or not, are vintage now. Anything, it's 20 years between 100, something made between 100 years ago and 20 years ago. So technically, anything between 1925 and 2005 is vintage.
All right. Okay. That stings a little, but okay. Let's go to the phone lines. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Are you noticing a change as well when you go to your local thrift shop? Wayne is calling us from Victoria. Hi, Wayne.
Hello. How's it going?
Very well. Thanks so much for calling in.
So just quickly, my background is manufacturing engineering. I've been involved in just about everything. So I can see good and bad. My I've been shopping in thrift stores for a long time. Could be furniture, could be clothing, could be something else. You might find it'll be less money than in the store. And if it's at least 20 or 30 years old, you could get some quality out of it as well. The prices have gone up because more people are shopping there, the economy and all that type of thing. So, and people who run them, whether it's Value Village or smaller ones, they know the value of the stuff. So they'll put the price up. They may even lock it up behind a showcase. So that kind of stuff like that. But on a bigger picture, society, especially in the Western world, has exchanged quality for quantity. So as some of your other people mentioned, they're buying all kinds of crap. Maybe they need to get a shop OD or something like that. I don't know why. And yes, a lot of it, because I come from the environmental industry as well, is sadly ending up in the garbage dump. But getting back to the thrift store, there's still a better deal. I generally do not buy anything new unless I have to. In other words, I've been in the store so long, I know where they are. I know the store in Vancouver, wherever you want to go. I've got nothing against capitalism. It's just that people need to raise their bar because they do not have quality in their life anymore. And I don't blame
Wayne, yeah. Thank you very much, Wayne in Victoria. You have a great day. Okay, yeah, quantity versus quality. It sounds like that's the dilemma that people have been coming up against, or thrift stores have been coming up against. Rob is our next caller now in Vancouver. Hi, Rob. What's your experience with thrift shopping?
Well, yeah, I'm like a slender guy, svelte guy, and way back in the 90s in high school, it's cool. It became really cool to go secondhand. But what I found is that there's just not a lot of selection for guys in general, and and even less for slim guys. So I kind of just stopped. Like, I don't really do much secondhand shopping.
Right. Well, that's
as a
interesting.
guy. And guys, we tend to keep our clothes for longer, I think. I think we're not as concerned with the trend. So I probably keep my clothes for too long and I get them mended. So that's just a comment as a guy. But I did want to give a shout out to, there's an amazing store in Chinatown called Blim, BLIM. They sell new stuff, but they also take old stuff and I guess they upcycle it. And just last month, I bought this amazing, it's like dead stock, never worn 90s O'Neill snowboard jacket from Japan. It's this color blocking. It's got yellow, peach, pink, teal, baby blue, and then a local artist who goes by Puppy Teeth. You can see him on Instagram. They did this amazing heat transfer on the back of all these wild cartoon cats, various cats, and the colors all
that sounds so cool.
Go with this jacket. Yeah. So check out Blim if you want to find some really cool upcycled, vintage, curated finds.
Yeah. What a great alternative too. If you're finding, you're familiar with Blim.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Blim. I also, when Rob was speaking, I was thinking of like when he said that he was having trouble finding stuff in his size, that a big thing that I think is on the rise is the idea of upcycling and, buying something that maybe doesn't necessarily fit, but reworking it into something that you're going to use and you're going to love. And it definitely seems to be gaining popularity. So I think that's a fun way to, even reworking what you already have into something that you'll wear again, it's a great way to get like more life out of the clothes.
Fantastic, Rob. Thank you so much. Norbert writes, I love buying clothes secondhand and mending my own. Clothing should tell a story. It's true. Why is Value Village charging $40 for jeans? And I don't know how much they pay, but he says paying employees $15. Thank you so much for your post on TikTok. And Tessa writes, prices have gone a fair bit higher, definitely. I thrift shop because I cannot afford that much, but with a thrifting, with the thrifting has get close to. I'm sorry, I think I'm missing a word there. But thank you very much for that. And Tessa saying the prices have definitely gone up. And an email from Joanne, who also thrifts for other items. Yes, books, kitchen gadgets, vases, glass platters. I have found some amazing things. I purchased crystal platters, which I use then to make up baking platters for Christmas baking. Lovely. I find really old kitchen gadgets, which work way better than the new styles. I recently bought a brass flower vase, which had intricate rope and grooves. I was using Brasso to clean it and couldn't get into the small spaces. I read online to use ketchup to bring brass back to life. OMG, it worked. I was amazed it came back to the original look. So that was a hack that really worked. Joanne, that is great to hear. Thank you very much. Our phone number again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. We're talking about thrift store shopping and its rise in popularity and what that's meant for the industry itself. We're apparently seeing now as well more of the fast fashion making it into thrift shops, prices going up. Are you seeing that yourself? Love to hear from you. 604-669-3733. My guest is Majenta Braumberger, who is a Langara journalism student and this year's Reed Mercer Fellow here with CBC. This reminds me of I was just watching Nikki Glaser on a talk show, and she was saying that she is, I think, a millennial, and she has a Gen Z or Gen Z assistant, and they were talking about Nirvana, and she said, "You know Nirvana, right?" And her assistant said, "Yes, the T-shirt company."
No.
But that's when you were saying stuff that's been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
But why do you think it is very generational, isn't it? It's really become a trend with Gen Z, the Gen Z generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a few reasons for it, right? Like, I heard, like, I can speak to myself personally, and then I think a lot of what I heard echoes the way that I feel. Like, I think, you know, first of all, there is the environmental piece, the sustainability piece, right? Like fast fashion the fashion industry in general is they are a huge source of waste, a huge polluter. I think they're widely believed to be the second largest polluter by industry, which is pretty wild. And like, you know, that's not even just when you think about like the textile waste that's being dumped, it's also like water that is used and chemicals. Yeah. And so I think people are conscious of that. And also I think that there is this kind of like thrill of the hunt, which it just makes shopping more fun. Yeah, I think. Absolutely. And like the uniqueness, if you can find something like unique and really well made and beautiful and especially if you can find it for less than buying new, I think that really leads to like a more of a feel-good shopping experience. And then I think like it you know, it really is just kind of like a nice alternative, and you're not creating like more waste. Like that stuff already exists in the world.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, kudos to the rise in this popularity for sure. What does it mean for the future though? What does it say about the future of the secondhand clothing industry?
I mean, it's so hard to say, like looking in our crystal balls, right? But I mean, I think that it really depends on like us as consumers and also on the producers of clothing as well. But I think, you know, if we continue to buy the way that we are buying and buy new and dispose of things, then I do think that it leads to an uncertain future because, you know, a lot of the stuff that's being made now just really isn't being made to last in that same way. Like, I think something really interesting is like, if you look at just like inflation and the price of things, the price of clothing has gone up like so much less than the price of like transportation or food or things like that. So, you know, we would really need to change the way that we think of clothes. And I think, thinking like keeping things for longer, valuing them, repairing them, because the way that we're currently going, like that long-term supply just might not be there, and we might have to reimagine what we think of when we think of thrift.
What an important discussion to have. Shahira is next now from Vancouver. Hi, Shahira.
Hi.
Hi. You have been doing thrift shopping for a long time.
45 to 50 years of my life.
Yeah. And why do you love it?
And but I think it just fits in so well with this ethos of recycling, not wasting. But on top of that, I have found the most amazing treasures, the best quality, and something that I've worn for 10, 20, 30 years. And the stuff you find in the shops is of course, going to be changed all the time because that's the way the fashion industry works. They want you to keep going in to buy, and so they change the fashions. Whereas I tend to buy things that just express my personality with style and color and fabric and weave, and it's fabulous. I hate shopping in regular shops, but once in a while I do have to.
Shahira, I love it. You're speaking to the choir here. You're talking to two people. I'm wearing kind of a polka dot blue and white, even more color here on Majenta. Whose name Majenta, by the way?
Yeah.
A beautiful suede jacket as well. And yes, letting your personality come through and all the treasures that you find. Great to hear from you, Shahira. Thanks so much. And an email from Anne in Nelson. I've thrifted for decades as well. It used to be great with wonderful choices. The last several years, though, it has been less so because suddenly everyone is grabbing piles of things off the racks. Too bad for us who have done this for a lifetime. Pauline writes from Abbotsford, thanks for the great tips about how great it is to wear clothes that aren't new. I have a closet full of clothes that aren't new. They're old even, including some great jackets I wore to work over skirts or pants. Thanks. I'm now going to go shopping in my own closet and not worry about what I put on isn't new. Majenta, great work on this series. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
That is Majenta Braumberger, Langara journalism student and the winner of this year's Reed Mercer Fellowship. And we are going to take more of your emails on that. Let us know as well how you feel about thrift shopping. BC Today at cbc.ca. My thanks to our team here on the show. Ali Bitarge, Charlie Cho, Allison Cole, Zamir Karim, Amy Bell, Dan Burrett, George Baker, Bradley Stewart, Eric Pankratz, Burke Johnson, Greg Kisser, Carmen Gutierrez, and Kyle Davidson.